They say an arena holds memories. And tonight, the memory of her was suffocating. It had been 1,098 days since she left her boots in the ring, a perfect storybook ending. Tonight was supposed to be the coronation of a new queen, the official passing of the torch. The internet forums had whispered, as they always do. Did you see that grainy photo near the airport? Did you hear that training rumor? But they were dismissed. Fan fiction. Desperate hope. The current champion had mocked these rumors, calling them the pathetic ghosts of a bygone era. The fans filling the stadium agreed. They were the new champion's merchandise. They were here to celebrate the present. They had accepted the past, or so they thought. The silence she left behind had a weight, and it was sitting in every single seat. The pre-show was loud, the opening matches explosive. Everything was designed to mask the absence. The commentary team spoke only of the future, painting the main event as the definitive start of a new dynasty. The current champion was ruthless, dominant, and deeply unpopular. She had cheated to win the title and insulted the legend's name every week since. The audience was primed for a story, but they expected the wrong one. They expected the plucky underdog to finally get her win. They expected a predictable, satisfying, but ultimately safe conclusion. The air was thick with anticipation, but it was a misplaced energy. They were looking at the ring, but their hearts were still looking at the entrance ramp, waiting for a ghost that they had already told themselves would never, ever come. It happened just as everyone predicted. The underdog was down. The champion stood over her, hoisting the title belt high, soaking in the booze. She grabbed a microphone, a smirk plastered on her face. "This," she spat, "is my era. This is my house. And the past is dead." She signaled to the timekeeper, demanding the bell be rung, though her opponent wasn't officially beaten. She was reveling in the humiliation. And in that moment of supreme arrogance, it happened. The arena lights didn't just dim, they snapped off. Total darkness. The champion's voice cut off. The booze died. A low, rhythmic thump began to play over the speakers, a sound nobody had heard before. A heartbeat. The collective breath of 80,000 people was stolen. Then, the opening chord, not the heartbeat, a guitar riff. A riff that had been silent for 3 years. The stadium didn't cheer. It gasped. It was a single, unified sound of pure disbelief. Jab heavy smoke cabbage say wo white gear main salmai. Fans literally jump car gay. Phone Zuper screams it ni loud ke commentary be mute lag rahi thi, or peach say Joe pyroblast hua. By full shock moment, sab ke rehi fe. No way. This is real? It wasn't just a return. It was a resurrection. The champion in the ring dropped the title, her face collapsing from arrogance into pale, unfiltered terror. This wasn't part of the plan. This wasn't possible. The woman walking down the ramp wasn't supposed to exist anymore. The moment her music hit, the backstage area, known as Gorilla Position, descended into pure anarchy. Headsets were thrown. The lead producer was screaming, "Who authorized this? Who?" But no one answered. The champion's manager was trying to storm through the curtain, held back by security. "You can't ruin her moment. You can't do this," he shrieked. But he was drowned out by the roar from the crowd. Technical staff were checking their equipment, convinced it was a catastrophic error. The other performers, waiting for their segments, just stood frozen, watching the monitor. Some were angry, their own stories now irrelevant. Others were in tears. The woman in white hadn't spoken to anyone. She had apparently just appeared, waited, and walked through the curtain. Before the pyro smoke even settled, it was done. "She's back" was the #1 trend worldwide. Sports networks, the ones who usually mocked wrestling, cut their live basketball coverage. "We are getting breaking news. This is..." This is unbelievable. Double quotes anchors stammered, reading frantic tweets from fans in the building. The company's stock, which had been stagnant, jumped 7 points in after-hours trading. But the most chaotic part? As soon as the show went off the air, she was gone. She didn't go to the producers. She didn't go to the locker room. She walked straight from the ring, back through the smoke, and according to security, into a black SUV that immediately sped out of the arena. She hadn't signed a contract. She hadn't said a word. She had simply returned, set the world on fire, and vanished. Miles away, in a quiet house, a phone buzzed on a nightstand. A man watched the replay on his TV, his face not filled with joy, but with a profound, sinking dread. He remembered the nights holding ice packs to her neck. He remembered the concussions, the surgeries, the agonizing rehab. He remembered the hollow look in her eyes when she finally retired, the relief that washed over their family. He looked at the screen, at the woman in white, the hero 80,000 people were screaming for. He didn't see a hero. He saw the woman who had promised him, never again. He picked up the phone. A text message, simple and heartbreaking. You promised. The return that rocked the world was, in her own home, a betrayal. The next day, the experts began their dissection. The initial shock wore off, replaced by the cold, harsh light of analysis. The legends, the retired icons of the past, chimed in. It was the greatest return I've ever seen, one said. But another, quieter voice emerged. Why? Why now? She had the perfect ending. She rode off into the sunset. Now she's back. Hold her. Slower. What if she can't keep up? What if she fails? The pressure was no longer just to return. It was to be the person she was 3 years ago. She wasn't just fighting the current champion. She was now fighting her own ghost, her own perfect legacy. The white gear wasn't a symbol of a hero. It was the uniform of a memory, and memories, by definition, can never be matched. A week of silence. The company ran the clip on repeat, but offered no explanation. The champion, humiliated, finally stormed the ring on the next broadcast. She was furious. You think you can steal my moment? You think you can walk into my world and just leave? Get out here. Get out here and face me. The crowd chanted the legend's name, expecting the music, the pyro, the white gear. The lights dimmed. The crowd roared. But the music didn't hit. Instead, the giant screen flickered to life. It wasn't the arena. It was a dark room. The hero was there, but not in gear. She was in a simple black hoodie, her face pale, her eyes exhausted. She looked small. I wasn't supposed to be there, she whispered, her voice cracking, amplified to the silent thousands. I was just visiting, saying hello to old friends. I never intended to walk out. She explained she was backstage when by some technical glitch, her old music and pyro cues were accidentally triggered. A ghost in the machine. In that moment, standing behind the curtain, hearing the sound, she just reacted. She walked out. I saw your faces, she said, tears welling. I heard the sound. I felt something I thought was dead. She looked directly into the camera, at the champion, at the world. The return wasn't real. It was an accident, a pause. But, she finished, her voice hardening, that reaction, it made it real. I wasn't back. Until you told me I was.